My favorite saint is Saint Philip Neri. He's the apostle of Rome, one of the apostles of Rome, and he's also a great apostle of joy. So I love the fact that he was able to really address the really challenging situation that he found in Rome, but always doing it optimistically, cheerfully, grounded in the Eucharist. My episcopal motto is "Only Jesus," and it's from a prayer that the missionaries of charity say every day after Mass. It's attributed to St. John Henry Newman. I think it's Mother Teresa, though. And it expresses to me, I think, that desire that everything that I do needs to be for Jesus and bringing people to Jesus. And the hope is that if I do my job well, that's what people are going to encounter. That's who people are going to encounter is Jesus. So our Archdiocese was recently blessed with the ordination of Auxiliary Bishop Kenney, who's just been an incredible priest in his many years of ministry. We really had need in our Archdiocese for an auxiliary who would be able to speak Spanish fluently and who really knew the culture of so many of our Latino immigrants. Bishop Kenney has a wonderful history in serving our Latino community, but he just has a real heart for the poor as well. And he's been serving as pastor at an inner city parish in Minneapolis, St. Olaf's, where they really have a great outreach to the homeless. He's bringing that dimension of the life of the church to everything that we do. So I'm really feel blessed that Pope Francis has named him as our new auxiliary bishop. The most challenging aspect, I think, is making sure that we as a church are able to pass on the faith effectively to our youngest generation. So in the Archdiocese, we had, in the lead up to our Archdiocesan synod, wonderful listening sessions. And the number one concern that people brought forward was their worry, really, that they didn't see young people in church, and they even knew that some people in their own families had stopped going. Seeing that as a priority, I think is pretty clear for us, but it is challenging to figure out how we can do that more effectively, both in our outreach to children through our Catholic schools, certainly in our outreach to teens and young adults, but then also just in faith formation programs. We're really trying to bring people into the church and to keep people in the church through a small group initiative that we established in the Archdiocese last year that seems to be bearing some fruit. So we're hoping that we're going to be able to pass on just really the beauty of our faith in an effective way and an exciting way, much as St. Philip Neri did in his time in Rome, to do it in a way where people are happy and excited to be Catholics and to follow the teachings of the Church. Any young person has to be trusting that God really has a plan for each one of us. And it's not something that's going to be all that difficult to discern because God wants us to know. So it's not like getting the broom of the Wicked Witch of the West, right? It's something that God wants us to know what his plan is for us. And so if we open our heart to that, if we really ask the Lord to reveal to us what's his plan, if we're really willing to spend that quiet time where we can hear the Lord's voice among the many things that, many other voices that we're hearing in society, I think that's a possibility. I was blessed in the sense that I had really an inkling from when I was a child that maybe God was calling me to be a priest. But I kind of lost that as I got older and ended up just going to a regular college, went to law school, worked for a while. And it was in that process when I started going to Mass every day that the Lord really spoke to me again more clearly about the call that he had for me. So I always tell young people, just be patient, be trusting, know that the Lord doesn't reveal the whole plan all at once. It's kind of like being in a car in the fog. You can see 10 feet in front of you, but you have to go that 10 feet to see the next 10 feet. And trusting that God indeed has a loving plan for each of us where we're going to experience joy. So I wasn't 100% sure when I was discerning, but I can tell you that these last 35 years as a priest have been magnificent. So the full title is Canonical Affairs and Church Governance, and the committee is intended to help bishops in their ministry as those responsible for governing their diocese. And so to be able to bring clarity to questions that arise in canon law, but to do it in a pastoral way. So really to help bishops to be able to move forward the work of the church in a way that's ordered. And that's ultimately what canon law does. I had the blessing of working for 13 years at the dicastery for legislative texts in Rome. And I got to see there how the canon law can really be such a tool for bishops, really, and really for the whole church. It's not just for bishops, but particularly in helping bishops to govern. And our Canonical Affairs and Church Governance Committee really does a great job of that, I think, in responding to the questions that we get from our brother bishops, responding to new situations that arise, helping us to be creative, but always to be pastoral, as we also strive to be respectful of what the norms are for the universal church. I've always found canon law to be really applied ecclesiology, so you have to be a good theologian if you're going to be a good canonist. But ultimately, it's never intended to be a weapon, but rather it's to establish the rules of the game, how it is that we relate to one another, those important relationships between laity, consecrated men and women, clerics and bishops, but how it is that together we're able to really move forward in a way that assures the rights as well as the obligations of all of those different groups. And so in my mind, canon law is so incredibly important for making sure that we're able to be the church that Christ wants us to be. I think it's incredibly important that we really trumpet the dignity of each human life, because it's the way in which we're able to really remind people of God's great love for each of us, that God's our creator, that God sustains us, and that each of us, because of that, has that innate dignity. So we're so grateful for that church teaching. But I think it's really important for us to be able to be the hands of Christ. And we see the way in which Christ really recognized the dignity of all people, no matter what they had done, no matter where they were from, that Christ was able to see dignity in them. And we as a church are called to be his body today. And certainly that the need for unity within the church requires us to have a unified position and really to be able to respect one another in that way. And that all comes down to that question of the dignity of each human life.